Good day for everybody. Uh, I'm very happy to open this webinar. That is devoted to deal with transactions between Germany and Israel. And I'm gonna start with a short outlook of for Israel, but after me, we'll hear many experts in different fields, and also with honorable guests. So I'm very happy to deal with it. I'm Mickey Blumenthal. I'm the managing partner of Grant Thornton Israel, and I'm really excited to do this webinar because I have some personal issue with this. If you see in this picture, my father, the name is Naftali Blumenthal. Naftali Blumenthal, who passed away about 2 and 3 years ago, um, he started the relationships between the business relationships between Israel and Germany the mid 60s when he was the one of the top executive of Core Industries, and they really started the business with Germany mid 60s. And we had in our family, when I was really young, we had lots of German businessmen that came to visit, and the German language was really spoken in our home. So I'm very happy now to deal with such a webinar that deals with M&A transactions between Israel and Germany. If we look into the export and import between Germany and Israel, we can see that from the imports from Germany as a third location, $5.62 billion, the third in large country from which we import goods. And as for exports, also one of the big, here the fifth, at 2.37 billion dollars, which is quite a significant amount. We are talking about the year 2024. All along the years, we can see that the import is increasing. If we take from the year of 2015 until now, you can look here and we see how it grew during the years. If we exert out the years 21 and 22, which were a little bit different from most, we take some regression line, we can see that it grows gradually quite quickly from the year 2015 until the year of 2024. And if we look also here in the export, we see from the year 2015, we see a constant growth of exports to Germany. We are talking about two very different economies, the two different countries. We are talking about Germany, a huge country with huge economy. We are talking about 83 million citizens, and we are talking in Israel about 10 million citizens. If we look into the gross domestic product, the GDP, we see that Israel have $559 billion of GDP, while Germany has 4.57 trillion dollars as GDP for the year 2024. What we can see is the GDP per capita is quite equal, about 55,000 for each country, which shows the similarity in the economies a little bit. About growth, we'll talk a little bit in a moment, but now if you see also figures like central bank interest, which is a little bit lower in Germany. 2 years ago, it was the opposite. We were lower and Germany was higher. And now during the situation, a little bit, our interest rate went up, and also inflation rates are a little bit up, which were very close to zero before 2 years, while in Germany it's about 2.37. As for growth, it's very important, it's very interesting to see that the growth in Israel is much higher than the growth in Germany. If we see 21, 9.5 as opposed to 3.7 in Germany, 6.4 as opposed to 1.4, 23, you see some higher. And also the forecast for Israel and Germany, Israel, the growth rate is higher than Germany. And this is very interesting because I believe that this situation creates this affects creates situation that investment in Israel are very interesting. Israel is a country, we'll see in a moment, of a lot of technology. You see food tech, we see cyber, we see medtech, fintech, car tech. All these are very popular in Israel. And Germany, as an industrial country, can invest a lot, have a lot of investment, a lot of success in investing in Israel. As for technology, we see that Israel, if we see the investments in R&D, which reflects the technology sector, we see that 91% of R&D capital in Israel comes from business sector. Here you see business sector. Out of this, 49 is from foreign investors. So 91% invested in R&D by the business sector. Out of this, 49 is from foreign investors, as opposed to the OECD average, in which only about 75% are by the business sector, and most of the investments are local, rather than 6.2% that comes from German investors. So this creates a situation that a lot of opportunities for German investors to invest in Israeli technology. The way the ecosystem of this industry technology starts from if you see, we divide the technology into a couple of stages: startups, early stage, growth, and mature. And here we can see who is investing in which. At the first, in the Israeli technology, invest what we call the 3Fs. 3Fs is friends, family, and when we're laughing, we say friends, family, and fools that invest in really the startups. And then in this stage and in the early stage, we find the business angels that invest. Later on, we see the venture capitalists that are invested, the VCs that invest. Then we see corporate venture capital, and then we see the private equity, and all is looking towards the exit or IPO and the mature side of the companies. And from time to time, we also had a great success in creating unicorns, and we see a couple of them in the next slide. Here we see what we call from ways to whiz. Here we see that a couple of years ago, quite many years ago, about 10, 11 years ago, Google invested in Waze. They bought Waze for 1.1 billion. It was the first Israeli unicorn that which reached over a value of over $1 billion. This happened about 11 years ago, and now, really lately, a couple of days ago, Google invested in Wiz $32 billion in the company Wiz, which is which is the highest investment ever in Israel. In between, we can see more investments. For example, Intel invested 15 billion value of Mobileye, or we saw also that Mellanox and NVIDIA invested about 7 million in value of Mellanox. So we see a lot of investment, huge investment here in Israel. And we created now with our German friends, with our German, with Grant Thornton Germany, we created an Israeli Germany desk, which is dedicated to help investors in all their needs when they are doing investments in Israel, starting from valuation, sell side, buy side, due diligence, raising finance, post-merger integration, and also tax advice and legal coverage. So a lot of knowledge is here between the two countries, and we share this knowledge with our German friends, the German firm, Grant Thornton Germany. And here in Israel, just two words about Israel. We are the sixth in large firm with 34 partners, 8 offices all around the world. If you see here, we have from the very north, Agoshrim and Rosh Pina, to the very south with this Midreshet Ben Gurion and Eilat, the middle, and we have two main, other 3 big offices, one the biggest in Tel Aviv, and then Haifa, and then of course Jerusalem. So we are here to serve you for all your needs. And now I would like to talk about the agenda that is coming now after my speech. First, after me, my friend Matthias Reif, head of the M&A legal and partner in GT Germany, in Grant Thornton Germany, is going to talk a little bit about relationships in Israel, his relationships in Israel. And then we'll have Shlomi Bartov, our CEO of consulting. He's a partner in the firm, and he's going to talk about M&A opportunities in Israel. Then we have an honorable guest, Miss Orna Kleinman. She's a managing director of Sublabs Israel, a huge organization with, she'll talk about it, but with about 1,400 employees all around Israel, with a lot of segments and sectors. And she is going to talk about her personal and SAP experience with regard to doing business in Israel. And then we'll hear Michael Helin, a director in the advisory firm, and he's going to talk about navigating the innovation and non-dilutive fundraising and unique due diligence insights. And at the end, we'll hear Shai Moyal, who is the head of our international tax department, and he is going to talk about benefits and opportunities from the aspect of taxes. So what I would like to do is to give the stage to my friend, Dr. Matthias Reif. Matthias, please take the stage. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much. A warm welcome also from my end. I will not have any slides for you because today we're going to be focusing on investments through Israel. 2 weeks ago, we did the opposite webinar when we looked at investment opportunities and the different tax, legal, and finance methods for that from Israel to Germany. Just a few words from my end, and in case some of you have not experienced the warmth of Israel when doing business in Israel, if you come from Germany. And though the title stands, that for the few minutes I'm going to speak to you is, business relationships since 1945, you may assume that unlike what Mickey was suggesting, this is not my personal story. So I'm not that old yet. But I'm working with and for Israeli companies and German companies doing business in Israel for like around about 15 years now. And just let me share an episode with my German friends and colleagues on the call here, which maybe illustrates the deepness and the strength of the Israeli-German relationship. So, and again, obviously that comes from people telling me these stories, partly because I haven't experienced it myself, but I understood until the 70s, it was clearly a no-go to brand anything in Israel that is made in Germany. I mean, for obvious reasons, there was too much personal despair and issues that surrounds Germany from the generation that lived there in Israel at that time. And so having such a webinar that we do today would probably be totally unheard of. As Mickey was suggesting, obviously that didn't mean that there was no communication or no business relationship, but it was not in the open as much as you may, or it wasn't in the open at all. Then in the 70s, apparently, I've been told there was a small shop in Tel Aviv that started to sell Ritter Sport chocolate branded made in Germany. And there was a huge uproar about that, and people were protesting and all that. Everything calmed down. And I mention that because if you fly into Tel Aviv to Ben Gurion Airport today, you will notice huge billboards with a sunglass company that is branded Carolina Lemke, and then it states Berlin below that. Carolina Lemke and Berlin, and it shows a very good-looking woman and some good-looking guys that wear sunglasses. And when I first saw that, I was puzzled because, to be honest, I have never saw that brand in Germany, and the reason for that is simply because it's not a German brand. So Carolina, just for those of you who don't know, Carolina is apparently the name of the wife of the founder. Lemke, I think, is a made-up name. And Berlin sits there simply for the fact that it sells better in Israel today if it's branded Germany or from Germany, despite the fact that it's not. So we come from, you can't sell anything that is made in Germany because of the history, to today where you pretend it's made in Germany because it's actually better for you, for your business. So this is where we are. We are here in a situation where doing business in Israel for a German company, you will find open doors and everybody celebrating you to come over and to work with you. There is not at all any resentment or something. It's totally the opposite. The Goethe Institute in Tel Aviv, I understand, has the highest numbers of pupils learning German in any Goethe Institute in the whole world. There's a huge appetite and openness to work with and together with German companies. So please take that advantage. Maybe one last sentence, and again, just maybe to illustrate also the differences. When you have a meeting, so the saying goes, if you have a meeting or you close a meeting in between or with Germans and Israelis, and you decide when to follow up, the Germans look at their calendars, the Israelis would look at their watch. So the time, there are differences. The timing and the speed of things are different. So I advise my German clients that I'm working with and help them also to understand the differences, because that often makes the difference between a deal that goes through and a deal that doesn't go through, simply because the people just don't understand each other, or talk without speaking to each other. So having said all that, again, as Mickey was saying, we within Grant Thornton are, as you probably know, within the next 7 huge advisory firms. We have offices all throughout the continent, and obviously in Germany, and obviously throughout Europe. And I'm proud to be heading that unit. Will focusing, let's say, Israeli European a business relationship, and help together with our GT colleagues in Israel to find the right people, to find the right connections, to help you to understand what you're doing and with whom, so that whatever you are planning to do, it will be a success. So That's from my end, and thus moving forward. Thank you for your attention.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Shlomi Bartov, and I will speak about M&A in Israel, the opportunities. I will speak about Israeli technology and innovation, Israeli transaction market, M&A and investment, and opportunities between Israel and Germany. But first, as Miki and Matthias said, we launched the GT Germany Israeli desk, and last month we also had some fruitful meeting in Tel Aviv, also participating together in a Europe Days conference and meeting with many technology companies and corporate as well. I would like to begin with a short snapshot of innovation in Israel. Israel also called the startup nation. In Israel, we have about 9,000 high-tech companies with 400,000 employees. We have about 400 public tech companies in Israel. Most of them are traded on NASDAQ or on Tel Aviv Stock Exchange. We have a multinational corporation. I will speak about them later. And also every year, new companies opened in the technology field. The Israeli technology sector, the companies raised $10 billion during the last year, and they're working in a diversified sector like organization software, cyber, fintech, media and communication, smart mobility, advanced manufacturing, digital health, life science, and so on. And also in Israel, we have more than 800 venture capital. 300 of them are Israeli venture capital, and more than 500 are foreign venture capital. Israel rank among the top startup ecosystem globally, holding a strong position, and now Israel ranked number 3. And you can compare the Israeli figure to the American hubs and also to the European hubs like London, Paris, Switzerland, and Berlin. And we are speaking about Israel. Israel is a state, it's not a city, but most of the activity, I can say that 85% of the technology in Israel is located in a Tel Aviv area or in a less than 1 hour drive from Tel Aviv. So Tel Aviv and Israel, it's more or less the same in terms of technology. The Israeli company raised $9 billion during the last year. And also you can compare the figure to the large American hub and also to the European hub, for example, London, Paris, and Berlin. One of the interesting points about Israel is the way that we can create startup companies. The Israeli economy, it's not so large, and we have about 20 large companies in the fintech, in the finance area. We have 5 major banks, but we have 800 fintech companies. In the food and agriculture, we also have about 30 companies, but we have 600 food tech, agrotech, and water tech companies. And in the transportation, we don't have companies like BMW, Mercedes, Porsche in Israel. We don't have any car manufacturer in Israel, but we have 250 car tech companies that with a lot of innovation that attract investor or car manufacturer from all over the world. And AI, it's also, we don't have a traditional AI companies, but more than 2,000 companies in Israel are operating in with AI solution and innovation. One other important segment in the Israeli technology is the multinational corporation, the MNCs. And we have more than 500 MNCs that are operating right now in Israel. You can see the well-known companies from North America, from Europe, and from Asia. And if I would like to emphasize, for example, the automotive, energy, utility, and industrial sector, we can see some of the leading German companies like Continental, Daimler, Bosch, Siemens, Volkswagen, and Porsche. All of them have a R&D center in Israel. And also in the IT and the software, we can see SAP And as Mickey presented, we have the honorable guest from SAP that describe their activity in the Israeli market. The Israeli transaction market, M&A and investment, is highly dynamic, and I will present a few slides from our annual transaction report that we just published it recently. You can see that analysis of the private transaction market indicates a slight recovery compared to 2023. As you know, the last 2 years was very complicated and challenging for the Israeli economy, but although the situation, it was a 7% increase in number of transactions compared to 2023. We have a 309 transactions that completed in 300 in 2024. And in terms of transaction value, it was a higher increase of 24%. And the average deal size was $56 million. In our analysis, we take the transaction between $5 million up to $1 billion. One of the most important things about the Israeli technology is more than 65% of the investment include foreign investor. You can see that the American investor lead the table with 1,500 transactions. These figures are related to the last decade, to the last 10 years. Then came the Israeli one. Then after them, the British was close to 300 transactions. And the German investor lead the European Union with 187 transactions during the last decade, with total value of $10 billion. And this is more than double from if you compare it to other European countries like France, Switzerland, and Luxembourg. Which opportunities we can see between Germany and Israel? So first of all, there is some notable transaction. For example, Germany Schwarz Group buys the Israeli XM cyber company for $700 million. I'm quite sure that most of the German investor or German participant familiar with Schwarz Group. This is one of the largest distributor retailer in the world, and they acquired the Israeli cybersecurity and paid $700 million. Another interesting transaction is 1-0 that they raised $1 million, $100 million led by Deutsche Bank. 1-0 is the Israeli leading digital bank, and the additional acquisition made by SAP, and the SAP acquired the WalkMe for more than $1 billion, but they left Orna Kleiman to elaborate more about the activity of S&P in Israel, because S&P, I think this is the number one in terms of acquisition that done in the Israeli market from a German point of view. If we take all the transactions that occur between Israel and Germany, the total transaction is 350 transactions, and we can see positive trend in the transaction if we ignore from the last 2 years, and it was close to 50 transactions every year. So it's averaged about once a week we have transaction with a Germany investor. But I think that the most important point in this is the 60% of the transaction conducted as a joint investment by German and Israeli investor. And I totally agree with Matthias that say that there is some business culture gap between the Germany and Israel. And I think that one of the key of success is to do this investment together. And this is the history, and I'm quite sure that we continue to work with our colleagues in GT Germany and with the German companies to doing this transaction. Israeli technology attracted German investor. You can see the diversification of the sector. For example, Deutsche Bank and Commerzbank invested in fintech. Bosch, Mercedes-Benz, and Volkswagen also very active in Israel in the car tech area. SAP and Siemens invested in software and AI. We know that there are some German VC fund that invested in food tech. Siemens and Sartorius invested in medtech, and the Schwarz Group, as I said, invested in cybertech. But most of the investment in Israel is made in technology or technology-oriented sector. The leading sector is organizational software, cyber, and fintech that take most of the market. But there is also interesting segment like smart transportation and smart cities, advanced manufacturing and construction. This is relevant for German industrial companies or for German car manufacturer. Also investment in the agtech, food tech, and water, energy. And I quite sure that the defense sector will be more active in the coming years. Another way to look into the Israeli transaction market is to try to see what the VCs are looking for. And this is the analysis of the survey that made last year by Israeli Innovation Authority, and they asked the VCs in which sector they forecast to increase their activity. They told that the fintech, organizational software, energy, and agtech will be the leading sector, or it will be increasing the activity. They spoke about a stable investment in smart transportation. They also focused that the cyber will decrease. But I think that after Mickey mentioned that the transaction that made by Google and Wiz last month, and quite sure that the cyber will continue to be more positive. And also yesterday we received the figures of the first quarter, and 40% of the transaction was in the cyber sector. So the cyber sector in Israel continued to lead the investment. We spoke about investment for Germany or from Europe and Israel, but I would like to say one word about the operating of Israeli company abroad. And we can see that more than 900 Israeli company have a presence in EU countries, and Germany, France, Italy, and UK are leading the table. We have about 200 Israeli company, 240 Israeli company that are operating in Germany with more than 300,000 employees. And this is the second step. The first step is to receive the investment from a European country, and then Israeli company try to open subsidiaries in Europe to be more close to the client and to be more close to the market. So if I would like to summarize my presentation, I can say that Israel startup markets offer a wide range of investment opportunities, attracting investors from all over the world. Many investment rounds take place in cooperation between local and international investors, including leading European and American funds, which diversified risk and increase the chances of success. In early stages, a relatively small amount of money can be invested, starting from a few million of dollars or euros, and allowing investors to examine the potential of the companies in this. We saw that the average transaction is about $50 or $56 million, but in the early stage, it could be less than $5 million, and this is, I think, the right way to begin. To begin with a small amount, and then if the investment going well, to continue with the investment. We don't have time to analyze all the geopolitical changes. I don't speak about the United States and Trump and Germany and all the tariffs and Ukraine and China. But just one point, that Israel can serve as a strategic bridge to other international markets, leveraging its close economic ties with the US. And another two benefits that I see for the German point of view is when the Germany investor will invest in Israel, they can also secure technology right of use in Germany and in the European Union, and also the ability to secure distribution and marketing rights in Germany and other European Union. And we spoke with many technology Israeli company. The first preference of these technology companies is the United States. But when they know and learn more about the German market, Most of them would like to increase their operation in Germany, and from the Germany partners, from the Germany corporation, from the Germany businessmen, from the Germany uh, venture capital, it's a good idea to receive some distribution right to distribute their product on the services in the European market. And in case of success, Israeli companies may become research and development center for European investor. And I would like to give the opportunity to Orna Kleinman to present the activity, the impressive activity of SAP in Israel. They act as a R&D center and also as one of the largest M&A player in the market. So thank you very much.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for inviting me to this forum. My name is Orna Kleinman. I'm the Managing Director of SAP Labs in Israel, responsible for all SAP R&D activities in Israel. I also have a role as a Senior Vice President at the Business Technology Platform, the cloud platform of SAP. And I'm part of the Israeli-German Chamber of Commerce. I'm a board member there. So bringing this holistic view on specifically on what SAP leverages in Israel and also the Chamber of Commerce and some of our activities here. I will start, just a minute, with talking a bit about SAP, though I know that SAP is well known in Germany and for Germans, but still worth mentioning that it's Europe's most valuable company, especially nowadays in the DAX. You can see this. We have hundreds of thousands of customers from small, medium businesses to large enterprises. Some key facts about SAP, and I will also connect to that what we're looking for in Israel in the last 26 years, and what we still find as interesting going forward. So around 34 billion euros total revenues, almost a bit more than half in the cloud. So we are ourselves in the transition from on-premise business to the cloud, and we are helping all our customers to do this transformation. We're the only Fortune 50 global tech companies that has headquarters in Europe, 110 plus thousand employees across the globe. We have more than 20 R&D locations around the globe, and of course, customers all over. 98% of the largest 100 companies in the world run SAP. They are our customers. As I said, some of them are large enterprises, some of them are small, medium enterprises. And in terms of mission, we want to be the #1 enterprise application and business AI company in the world, definitely dominant in many markets and already reached these goals in many markets in the world. And I think that if I look at this mission, I can also connect to why SAP is so dominant in Israel, and what kind of partnerships we have here, what kind of acquisitions we have done throughout the years, and how important it is for us to integrate the technologies that we find and the innovations that we find in Israel, to integrate them into our global products. We call them into our lines of business, the different applications, business applications that we're developing at SAP. and really make this IP and the contribution of the talent that we acquire and then have as employees into the company for the long term. I'll deep dive now into really our subsidiary in Israel. So as I said, it's part of 22 labs. We call it an R&D center, a lab. 22 labs in 20 countries. We have almost 50K employees in development in these labs. Here in Israel, we have 1,200 employees in 2 locations, in Ra'anana, which is a 20-30 minutes far away from Tel Aviv, and in Tel Aviv, in the center, in the heart of Tel Aviv. We are 26 years now, almost 27 years now in Israel. Acquire a lot of early talents, although you can see that the age and the length of service, the tenure of employees is already substantial. And I see this as a very strong point, because when you acquire a startup or a small company, technology company, then your biggest challenge is how to retain these talents and to keep them efficient and contributing and innovating inside the large corporate. And I think that's one of my key goals as managing director of SAP in Israel, is not just to find these innovations, but to well integrate them into the company and to keep the talent happy and productive and contributing to the greater SAP and the global company as much as possible. What we do in Israel is we mainly contribute to the core cloud platform of SAP, what we call a business technology platform. And we have also a lot of data services developed here as part of the business data cloud of SAP. I think what the main, as I mentioned before, the main value the teams in Israel have for SAP Global is the ability to do the transition from innovation to scale. And I must admit that when we started, the notion about the companies that SAP acquires in Israel was mainly to do the disruptive innovation, while the scale was done then afterwards in Germany by teams in Germany. So all that was related to standard compliance or enterprise readiness was done in Germany. I must say that in the last 15, even 20 years, this changed dramatically. So the whole life cycle of ideation to scale and production is done by the same teams in Israel. And that's a big forte that we have here, not just to acquire a startup or to grow organically the teams that are here, to do the ideation, to do the innovation here, but then to also be able to really productize, deploy in all the data centers all over the world, and be responsible for the services we deliver from A to Z. When you deliver products in the cloud, there is no maintenance team that is located somewhere else. You don't do handovers. You cannot just do the innovation and let somebody else then fix and take care of the product for customers. It's the same team that is doing the whole life cycle of the product. And I think that brings also a lot of potential for the teams in Israel to really continue and influence and impact the products that they deliver to the tens of thousands of customers of SAP around the world, but still keeping the entrepreneurial spirit. So more than 50% of our employees have a startup experience, and they remain innovators at SAP. And with that, they bring a slight different value to the company. We've had 12 acquisitions since the first one in Israel. And a nice anecdote about that is that the first product company ever that SAP ever acquired outside Germany was in Israel. And it was in 1998. And since then, SAP acquires all over the world, as you know, huge companies, but still continued the investment in Israel. More than 90% of these companies that we bought here were successfully integrated into the company. And when I mean successfully integrated, I mean that the products that we acquired are still delivered and developed at SAP and integrated into teams all over the world. So we really use the products that we acquired in Israel, and that's a big challenge. So to know how to do it, to know how to really have a factory of abilities to integrate and make the acquisitions, the post-merge and integration activities successful, that's not trivial at any company. And with SAP, I think we really know how to do that. With that, I will just show the list of companies that we acquired. So Shlomi mentioned WalkMe, $1.5 billion acquisition last year in the middle of a very problematic situation we have here in Israel and in the whole Middle East. This deal was closed remotely, and WalkMe, a few words maybe on what WalkMe does. WalkMe helps organization navigate technology changes by providing the users with the guidance and automation features. What does it mean in simple wording? It walks you through, that's why the name is WalkMe. It walks you through a new software that you're trying to adopt. For example, if I'm getting into my bank and I have the UI of endless options that I can do in my bank account, but I want to do a certain transaction, then WalkMe allows you to just go to the AI assistant in simple English, say, I want to transfer, I don't know, 1,000 shekels from my account to this account. And then you can either choose if the assistant of WalkMe walks you through the clicks you should do, finds the path, the happy path of clicks that will enable you to do the transaction, or simply does it for you. So this overlay of digital assistant that makes it easier for you to navigate a new software that you have no idea how to operate, this is something that now is integrated in all SAP products. So WalkMe will be integrated into all our products and help our users to easily adopt innovation or easily adopt the products that they want to use. No more looking into endless help menus or documentation or user guides on how to do a simple task that you want to do with a new software. So that's just one of the acquisitions that we did and we are very happy with. We bought also Gigya, another large acquisition that we bought at 2017, again, implemented and integrated into all our products. And with that, I will end my session. Thank you. Any questions will be welcome afterwards. And I want to introduce now Michael Halin, a director in GT Israel, to take over. Thank you all.
So, hi everyone, my name is Michael Halin. I'm a director with Grant Thornton Israel, head of the transaction services, leading the diligence practice, as well as the non-dilutive grants and other grants from the State of Israel. This is the main topic that we will discuss today. So let's start. So probably, as you saw in Shlomi's presentation as well, Israel has 500 multi-national development centers. I'm being said that you hear me not loud enough, so I hope it can help. Let me just check 1 second. I hope it will improve. Second. Okay. I hope I'll try to speak a bit louder. So as Shlomi also mentioned, about $9 billion divided between the following fields, as you can see, and what's interesting here is that about 60% of this amount is actually invested in 3 areas: cyber, fintech, and organizational software. In addition, about 65% of the venture capital funds active in Israel are actually foreign. Also very interesting facts. I'll skip this slide as Shlomi and Miki also presented it. And as noted, about 85% of the innovation multinational R&D centers are located in Tel Aviv. 6% are in Haifa, which is about to the north, around here. And about 3% in the area of Kiryat Gat, which has tax benefits. So it's an obvious reason for establishing an R&D center in the south. And of course, there are other areas as well. Now, also, what's very interesting in Israel is that the funds invested in R&D are actually, most of them come from foreigners, with almost 50%, 49.2% of the capital invested in R&D comes from foreign investors, as opposed to only 40% from Israelis, or more accurate, from local business sector, and only 2.2% from the government. As you can see, it's much higher than the OECD average, and I think it's the only country with more than 10% invested through foreign or by foreign investors. So I think it's also very interesting and just shows you the strengths of Israel and how it's appealing for outside external investors. And now there are different ways of fundraising, and by startups, starting from bootstrapping, friends and family, crowdfunding, angel investor, startup accelerators and incubators, one of the topics that I will discuss today, and also government grants and subsidies. In addition, there are venture capital, corporate funding, loans and venture debt, and of course, initial public offering. Typical ranges of fundraising for tech startups usually comes for pre-seed, it's about from 100K to 1 million. For a seed company, it's from 1 million to 5 or 10 million. And Series A, 10 million to 30 million. And those are the areas the main areas that the Innovation Authority and other governmental institutions provide funding for. And of course, there are usually also Series B and beyond, and late stage and IPO for bigger needs. Now let's talk about a little bit about the Israeli Innovation Authority. So the Israel Innovation Authority is actually responsible for the country's innovation policy. It is an independent and impartial statutory public entity that operates for the benefit of the Israeli innovation ecosystem and Israeli economy as a whole. Its mission is to invest in innovation in order to promote sustainable and inclusive growth. It's not part of the government, but rather a governmental standalone entity responsible for the high tech in Israel. It has more than 160 employees. and it has an annual budget of approximately 1.5 billion shekels, which is about almost 400 million euros a year, intended for direct investment through several funds or routes, suitable from the initial idea and until big companies needing bridge funding. Hundreds, if not thousands, of applications are being submitted to the Israel Innovation Authority every year. And the Innovation Authority has probably the biggest pool of professionals, inspectors that come to check the companies for their technology, financials, and other things that are being examined by the Israeli innovation authorities. All the grants are non-dilutive, so that the entire risk for the funding is actually on the state of Israel. And as such, it also reduces the risk for other investors. The Innovation Authority also functions as an enabler with all things related to the Israeli innovation ecosystem. It provides conditional grants to support disruptive technological innovations, as well as engage in creating the groundwork and infrastructure to prepare for future technologies in order to maintain both technological and economical leadership, as well as improve productivity and global competitiveness of the Israeli economy. The IAA is also a quality hallmark. The support from the IAA is an objective vote of confidence that can help entrepreneurs raise additional capital following the initial funding provided by the specific group. So a few words about the Israel Innovation Authority, about the different routes and what it actually offers. So it has actually 4 different divisions. Just give a few words about each one of them and maybe a few examples, as each of those divisions actually has dozens and dozens of different programs intended for different audiences and different terms, of course, and the budget provided. So the startup division offers, the first one, of course, is the startup division. It offers unique tools to support the early development stage, technological initiatives at the pre-seed and initial R&D stage, thus helping transform ideas into reality while reaching significant funding milestones. Each division has, as I mentioned, dozens of different programs. So one of the examples here of this division, of the startup division, is the technological incubators that we noted before. Intended for private, it's actually a program that is open all year long. It's intended for private entrepreneurs interested in funding startup companies within the framework of the incubators. You can receive a grant of up to 85% of the approved budget and up to a maximum budget of 3.5 million shekel, which is almost 1 million euro, for a period of up to 2 years. And investment financing from the incubator to supplement state funding of up to 15% of the approved budget, thereby completing 100% of the total budget. So actually the entrepreneur doesn't need to provide any financing except the initial idea. You receive comprehensive assistance from the incubator, including physical space and infrastructure, administrative services, technological and business guidance, legal advice, and access to partners, additional investors, and potential customers. You have also another program, is the Startup Fund. It's also open all year long, and the fund provides non-dilutive investment and requires matching funds from private investors. It's suitable for companies in pre-seed and up to round A, for different amount according to the stage the company is at. Pre-seed, you can receive up to 1.5 million shekels. In the seed, you can receive a grant of up to 5 million shekels. In round A, up to 15 million shekels. And if the company would be located in a remote area, you will receive additional 10% grant, thus leading to 16.5 million for round A. And now we'll move to the growth division, which which also operate the multinational R&D centers. So the growth division operates a wide range of incentive programs that assist high-tech companies in the sales growth stage, as well as mature high-tech companies that utilize growth channels based on technological innovation and or seek assistance in funding innovative research and development. So similar to the startup division, it includes dozens of different programs, some open all year long, some open for a short period of time. So the R&D fund is a program that open all year long. This supports commercial companies currently developing new products or upgrading an existing technology. Program offers the largest financial incentive awarded by the State of Israel for Israeli corporations R&D activity, and it's offered to all sectors with the aim of strengthening and advancing the Israeli economy, support of between 20 to 50% of the approved R&D expenditure, and development zones are eligible for additional 10% support, and companies that are from the Gaza Strip are eligible for additional 25% support. So you can reach actually up until 75% of the funding. Now, under this division, we also have the multinational R&D centers. That's actually something that is not open all year long, but it opens on a timely manner. Now, the recent one that was open, it was for the establishment and expansion of the operation of foreign industrial corporations in the fields of biotechnology or medicine in Israel, turning them into full-fledged companies with extensive business activities, increasing the number of employees within the corporation in Israel, including non-R&D staff, thereby promoting the management and operation of the global value chain, including manufacturing in Israel. Through this program, you can actually receive a license to submit R&D programs under the benefit track for a period of 5 years, financial investment covering 20 to 40% of the approved R&D program expenses. R&D programs will be pre-approved for a period of 3 years. R&D centers operating in development areas receive additional support of 10%, and from the Gaza Strip, additional 25%. So the supported R&D centers will not be required to pay any royalties to the Israeli Innovation Authority, and I think this is one of the most appealing terms of the program. You actually receive funding without any obligation or anything of that sort. And the Innovation Authority has also additional 2 visions: the technological infrastructure, which is aiming mostly for the academy and the economy business sector to work together, get dual-use technologies to exchange of knowledge and experience, and developing groundbreaking innovation, integrated group of researchers from the academy and the industry. And we have also the international collaboration, which probably you are familiar also with the Horizon Europe, and also it has few binational funds. Currently there are with India, US, Singapore, and Korea. And we hope that in the near future we'll have also with Germany. Now, in addition to the Israeli Innovation Authority, we have also the Ministry of Economy and Industry and the Advanced Manufacturing Institute that support main industries like automation and robotics, IoT and sensor systems, big data and advanced analytics, artificial intelligence and machine learning, digitization of manufacturing process, and industrial cybersecurity and information security. And it has actually also a few interesting plans that deal with track. So the one from Ministry of Economy and Industry, it's track for implementing advanced manufacturing technologies, support of energy efficiency in factories, to move to a greener economy, and less polluting, and also assistance in upgrading and adapting production lines to Industry 4.0. And from the Advanced Manufacturing Institute, you have guidance and training in implementing new technologies, as well as partial funding for implementation and adaptation projects. We have also the Industrial Revolution in Israel, the Industry 5.0, new budget of up to 60 million shekels. The Ministry of Economy and Industry, in collaboration with the Ministry of Environmental Protection and the Tekuma administration, is uniting for the first time the Resource Efficiency Center and the Institute for Advanced Manufacturing. Also, the Unified Institute will provide the Israeli industry with advanced tools for implementing innovative technologies, environmental efficiency, and improving labor productivity, with a total budget 60 million. And in addition, we are a country that is currently post-war, almost post-war. We have two main regions that were affected by the war. So one of them is the Gaza Strip with 47 communities, about 63,000 people, and a budget of 19 billion shekels, which are almost 5 billion euros, budget for 5 years. And in the North region, we have quite similar numbers with 43 communities, almost 62,000 people, and a budget of 15 billion shekels, just below 4 billion euros. So the budget in both areas is for the rehabilitation, but also for growth. The multi-year plan for 25 to 29 will focus on the development and growth of the confirmation line area, with emphasis on central anchors and strategic projects. Its main objective include demographic growth, development of economic anchors, economic resilience of local authorities, optimal education, quality and accessible healthcare, professional welfare services, and strengthening personal and community resilience. And now moving forward to maybe a few differences between the analysis of an established company as opposed to the text startup companies, which is quite different. As you noted, most of the investment or substantial percentage of the investment in Israel actually is done in startup companies. So one of the main differences is, of course, the revenue model and the financial performance. In an established company, you would typically have a stable historical revenue stream. The due diligence would focus on revenue quality, sustainability, customer concentration, trends in sales and margins. May have also multiple revenue streams. In a tech startup, revenue may be inconsistent, with early stage companies often operate with losses. The focus of a due diligence would be on the growth trajectory, scalability of the business model. If it's a SaaS company, of course, the churn rates and cohort analysis must be done. Also, profitability and cash flow. So in an established company, profitability is a key metric. EBITDA analysis, important deliverables in diligence. Of course, you examine also cost structure, and operating efficiency is examined. Cash flow stability and working capital sufficiency. In a tech company, in a startup, you would usually focus more on the cash burn rate. The profitability may not be near-term goal. The focus is on the burn rate, the runway, and whether additional funding is needed in order to sustain operations. Now, financial statements and accounting practices. The established company has a history of audited or reviewed financial statement with generally accepted accounting principle, focuses on revenue recognition, inventory valuation, and rules for liabilities. In a tech startup, often lacks formal accounting policies. Sometimes, usually it would be according to the local GAAP and not something global, like IFRS or US GAAP. Investors usually scrutinize how revenue is recognized, especially in SaaS companies, and we need to normalize financials to get an accurate view of operating performance. Valuation and growth assumptions. So in an established company, the valuation is based on historical earnings, multiples of EBITDA or DCF, discounted cash flows. Growth is often steady but incremental. So in a tech startup, valuation is highly speculative and often based on potential market size, future revenue, and user growth. Investors look at KPIs like monthly recurring revenue, annual recurring revenue, and customer churn rates. Customer and market risk focus on customer concentration risk, contract renewals, and brand loyalty. Competitive positioning within a mature market is assessed. In a tech startup company, product market fit is a major risk. Investors analyze churn rates, net promoter score, and early adoption patterns. Market entry barriers and scalability are crucial considerations. In addition, there are legal and compliance risks, of course, differences also in capital structure and funding. We'll skip those as we're almost out of time. And it brings me to the practical experience from doing a lot of due diligence work on local entities, startup companies. So here are a few examples of quite common findings or exposures for local companies. So one of the key areas is the local employment laws and practices. Many times startups don't accrue for full amounts for severance. Many of them don't accrue at all for vacation and duration, which is quite unique component in the local Israeli market. And of course, when you have 3 employees, the effect of those lacking rules or expenses quite minimal. But if we're talking about a company with already 50 employees, that could be a significant amount of money that's lacking from the financials. Now, the second one is not registered obligations and assets that are not employee related. So we've talked about the Israeli Innovation Authority. So the Israeli Innovation Authority, the entire risk, as we noted, is on the Israeli Innovation Authority. So I'm being told I'm out of time, so I'll just run through. We have also differences in financial statements and also grants and war grants and COVID-related grants that are also sometimes not part of the financials. And that's it for me. I'll hand over Shai Moyal, speak about the international taxes. Shai, to you.
Thank you, Michael. Okay. Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us. I'm Shai Moyal. I'm an attorney. I'm barred in Israel, in New York, and I'm heading the International Tax Division in Grant Thornton, Israel, and the International Tax and the Transfer Pricing. We'll be speaking mainly about The Israeli tax system in a snapshot. Yeah. Now we can see my presentation. Thank you for the comment. So we will cover the mainly Israeli tax system in a snapshot, some special tax issues, and of course, tax incentive for the high-tech sector. Let's start. So Israeli tax system is quite similar to most Western tax countries. Corporate income tax in Israel, the standard rate is 23%. We'll soon see that there is a lot of relief. The tax base is worldwide. Any Israeli company which is registered in Israel is deemed to be Israeli tax resident. And also it's possible that if you are registered out of Israel, you'll be subject to Israeli taxation if the company is managing control from Israel. Distribution of dividends between two Israeli companies is generally tax exempt. But distributing dividends to individuals or to foreign residents will be subject to either 25% or 30%, depends on the participation holding more than 10%, say it's 30%, and less than 10%, the lower rates. If you are active in Israel as a foreign branch, you don't have a subsidiary in Israel, then generally the tax system will apply the same corporate income tax, but there is no remittances tax. So profit distribution from a branch to the headquarters abroad is not subject to any withholding tax. Currently, there is some discussion about changing this. Losses in Israel can be carried forward indefinitely. They are classified to different classes of losses, business and capital or passive losses, but generally can be carried forward indefinitely. We need to put a lot of attention when there is a change in control or in the business, then we might lose the carry forward losses. In Israel, we don't have per se thin capitalization or interest limitation on deduction, but it is quite limited and usually only for business purposes. Financial expenses will be utilized and deducted only against business activity. There is discussion about implementing Action 4, but it's not in the legislation yet. Similarly, Pillar 2 is not yet implemented, but there is discussion to implement it within 2026. Transfer pricing regulation is in place for almost 20 years. We generally adhere to the OECD guidelines. There is no threshold, so any company, small or big, small transaction or big transaction, will be subject to the transfer pricing regulation. There are some safe harbors which can save and reduce your documentation burden for low-risk distributor, routine services, and marketing. If we look for a few seconds on the Israeli-German tax treaty, we can see that it provides for substantial relief on the withholding tax. Dividend could be reduced to 5% instead of 23% or 25 or 30%. Interest instead of 23 can be reduced to 5%, in special circumstances to 0. Royalty is fully exempt, and capital gain generally exempt. Permanent establishment will be established after 12 months of stay in Israel. Choice of entity. If you want to come into Israel, you generally have two alternatives, generally speaking, if either the limited liability company, the LTD, or the branch, the foreign headquarter, registered as a foreign company in Israel. Generally speaking, the limited liability company is very straightforward to incorporate. No minimum share capital. One shareholder is enough. There is no obligation to have a local director. But if you don't have a local director, for tax purposes, you will need a fiscal representative. The incorporation is quite straightforward, few days, even shorter. This company, even held by a foreign shareholder, will be entitled for all tax incentive and benefits. the dividend distribution that we just seen will be subject to withholding tax. If we look at the branch, so the branch is basically no different from other jurisdiction. It's an extension of the foreign parent company. Of course, shareholding is not relevant. The parent company bears all is fully responsible for the liability of the branch. You will need a fiscal representative for tax purposes. It will take several weeks for the registration office to take care of this, the translated article of association and so on. Most of the incentives are not available for the branch, but the big advantage, if you have an ongoing activity, profit distribution, as we just mentioned, are tax-free. I'll run through it very fast. There is quite a bunch of registration and compliances requirement in Israel. Normally, you don't need to have, it's not an obligation to have a bank account in Israel, but from practical perspective, for tax purposes and so on, you will be required to have a bank account, mainly to open the VAT file, which will be the first obstacle after the bank account to register yourself within the Israeli tax net. Next is the ongoing compliance. The bookkeeping in Israel is mandatory, and it's according to a strict regulation. Generally, foreign software are not allowed unless you have the Israeli patch for SAP and so on. Monthly reporting and payment are required, could be taken care of by an outsourced bookkeeper. English or Hebrew is possible. The annual requirement complies. Any company in Israel is required to have an audited financial statement. There's no difference if it's a small company or a bigger one. The choice of accounting system is quite flexible. You can use IFRS, US GAAP, and of course, Israeli GAAP. But for tax purposes, for the tax return, before making the regular adjustment, we will first need to adjust the accounting base to the Israeli GAAP. Currency, we use the Israeli currency, new Israeli shekel. In some unique situation, we can report for tax purposes, also the financial statement on a US dollar currency, no other currency. We need to make an application in advance to the tax authority, and then we are locked up for 3 years. Next, some incentive for non-resident, mainly the capital gain exemption. That's in internal legislation. No need to apply for the tax treaty relief. So the general exemption for selling shares of an Israeli company, normally a high-tech company, if it's not part of your permanent establishment, it's not part of your business to buy and sell companies, that should be exempt. Provided that this company is not real estate rich or not real estate connection or any natural resources and etc. The next exemption, which is more lenient, is the publicly traded company shares. If it's an Israeli company, either traded in the Israeli stock exchange market or in any other recognized foreign stock exchange, like in the Nasdaq. So there is a full exemption, no special requirement for any condition. Last but not least, it's the private equity and venture capital funds, which have you seen in our previous lecture, that's quite active in Israel, about 800, 900 active VCs, private equity. So providing that we receive a tax ruling, the limited liability partners, the foreign investor will be exempt from capital gain. And the promoter, the managing partner, the GP, would be eligible for 15%, which is a reduced tax rate, either the marginal for individual, which could be 50%, or capital gain for individual 20, 25 or 30. So that's good relief, but we need to take care of it in advance before starting the investing activity in Israel. Some incentive for individuals as well. Generally speaking, individuals in Israel are subject to very high marginal tax rates. It's up to 50% for regular income, and for passive income could get to 35%. There's no wealth tax, inheritance tax, or gift tax in Israel, so there's not a lot of bureaucracy from that perspective. There is a special relief for individuals which are newcomers immigrated to Israel or a veteran return resident who used to live out of Israel for 10 years. There is a quite generous and a very easy tax regime, which is exempting your income, your foreign source income for 10 years currently without even reporting. From 2026. The new legislation will require a reporting about the exempt income. If you're relocating to Israel for working purposes or relocation and you're an expat in Israel, there is some relief, especially in the first years. There's a lot of exempt expenses which are deductible against your salary. Your visa will need to be applied in advance and then renewed each year. Another interesting point is the employee stock option plan, which is very acceptable in the high-tech industry. There's several tracks, but the most common 95% of the track that companies are using is the capital gain, which allow employees to enjoy from 25% tax rate instead of their 50 marginal. When there is an exit event. But the downside is the employer, the companies are not allowed to take the deduction, the cost of the shares or the options. The last part of my presentation will deal with a special tax incentive for the high-tech sector. So the main incentive is for high-tech companies, software or patent or similar IP holder, which engage in heavy R&D activity, which is quantified that's at least 7% of the revenue, and employs 20% R&D employees. There are several more conditions, but once you meet this condition and it's examined on a year-by-year basis, there is no need for special approval from the tax authority. You'll be eligible for a reduced corporate income tax rate. If you're in a development area, that's 7.5% corporate income tax. And if you're in the rest of Israel, the center of Israel, Tel Aviv, Herzliya, Haifa, and so on, it's 12%. For special big group, if an Israeli company is a part of a big group, there will be even reduced corporate income tax. Another benefits from this tax benefits is not only the corporate income tax, but also repatriating of profit in the form of dividends. Generally 20%, or double tax treaty relief between Israel and Germany is 5%. But if 90% of the shareholders of this high-tech company are foreign resident, there is a special relief. It's 4% instead of the 20 or 5 under the tax treaty. I will not speak too much about it, but also traditional industrial companies are eligible for a special tax relief. They should be engaged in manufacturing activity and export at least 25 of their income. Then there is special relief, maybe less preferable like the high tech, but it's also available. You should know about it. The third kind of tax incentive for Israeli company is, and quite predominant, is the R&D center. If you don't want to develop the IP in Israel, if you want the Israeli company to develop the IP for a related party or the parent company, or you purchase an Israeli company and then you took the IP out, then you might establish an R&D center. We need to qualify. We need to get an approval from the innovation center. Usually the approval is good for 3 years. We need to prove that the research and development are innovative. And of course, it needs to be provided to a non-resident. If you meet all these conditions, then your corporate income tax will be reduced either to 16% in the center of Israel or 7.5% if you're out of the center of Israel, also reduced withholding tax on dividend. 2 points I would like to mention with conjunction with the employee stock option, which, as we said, is very acceptable in Israel to give your employees. So once, if you're working on a cost plus basis, and this is normally what R&D center will do, then you need to take into your cost basis calculation the cost of the equity instrument. You need to include it, but on the other hand, it will not be allowed as an expenses for example, if your markup is 10%, so your taxable income will be increased not only by the markup, by the 10%, but the full cost 110%. So this is to take into consideration. Another thing to take into consideration, and we need to do it from the outset, from the beginning, is the recharge agreement. Normally, the R&D center will provide option or stock for the foreign or for the parent company abroad. And that will create a debt between the Israeli company to the parent company. Usually, repayment of a debt is tax-free in Israel. It's like a repayment of loan, but there is a lot of issues around it, and the ITA publish a circular that will set a criteria that if you meet all of them, reimbursement, the parent company or related party will be subject as a repayment of loan, free of tax. But if not, that could be classified as a dividend and can be hurtful. The main idea is to plan ahead before the beginning of the activity, before issuing the stock option plan. If we have still a couple of minutes, then maybe we'll look at the typical transaction and discuss the financing of purchasing an Israeli company. We can either do it as straightforward buyout, and the foreign buyer is paying the seller directly and purchasing the target. So in the future, when this Israeli target will be sold, the non-resident will enjoy the exemption from capital gain in Israel. But the downside is the dividend distribution to repatriate the profit will be subject to withholding tax. If it's with Germany, it's not a big withholding tax, it's 5%. If we want to avoid this withholding tax, we can think about a different structure, incorporating a purchase company in the middle, inject into it a loan, and this finance will serve to purchase the target company. So in the future, we can make the dividend distribution between the target and the purchase company will be tax exempt, as mentioned earlier. And from there, we can repatriate the loan. The principal, at least, is tax-free, but there is a lot of challenges here. There could be interest issues, withholding tax. Also, notional interest might be applied if there is no interest applied to the loan. There is a solution in Israel for that. We can, at least from Israel perspective, the foreign company can finance its Israeli subsidiary with something we call a capital note. It's a hybrid loan or capital, but from legally and financial perspective, this is a long-term loan, interest-free. The last point, which I would like to mention, is that a lot of foreign companies, where after they're purchasing the Israeli company, would like to take out the IP and put it in their, whenever they are centralizing their IP, regardless of all the tax incentive in Israel, there's some business reason for that. So at least 2 points to mention about that is that it's a capital gain event if a subsidiary is selling or granting its IP to the related party or the parent company. And if it's taxable or not, is the question if we have enough qualified losses to offset the IP sale. So it's a very important point to examine in the due diligence before purchasing the target. From Israeli tax perspective and the valuation, at least according to their perspective, will be similar or close to 100% of the SPA purchase price. So we need to look at this very carefully in planning ahead. We'll be, of course, happy to help you with any other tax issues. With this, I would like to get back to Mickey for final words. Thank you, everyone.
Hello, everybody. I think that we heard quite a lot of experts during this short webinar. Israel is a very comfortable country for investing, and we really hope that you got a lot of information. We are here if you need anything else, anything more information, and we are here to do the best we can in order to help those who want to invest in Israel in the different ways that are in the optional ways that you have. So we thank you very much for being here, for staying up until now. I thank the panelists, and especially I would like to thank Orna from SAP. And thank you very much also, Matthias, and have a good day. Thank you very much for participating. Bye-bye, and enjoy the day.